Hello everyone, it's Leo's Fire back again with another video today, and it is episode 2 of Loki reaction and review. And just before we get started, it is a spoiler review and reaction, and also if you could like and subscribe to my channel, it would greatly help me keep you up to date with all the news that I can find about Marvel and Star Wars and I'll be constantly doing these reviews as well. Anyway, we'll get into it. I'm really excited to talk about this episode. Lots of things happened. Small little moments, big moments. Certainly at the end there was a very, very big sequence of events that, well, it was one event that makes so much trouble for the timeline. Right, we'll just get into it. So the thing is, right at the start we see the Loki variant that they're chasing, taking the TVA equipment, even more so the device of the opening the time doors so they can get in and out of wherever they want. As you'll be seen, it's so crazy. And we find out that the TVA can't reset timelines if it crosses the red line, where we see Miss Minutes talking and trying to teach Loki. And we see Loki as like a kid in school, like not really caring, like yes, okay, this is boring, I don't want to hear. And you can even see that it's being mischievous by throwing things at Miss Minutes, just like, oh, shush, shush. But we found out that they can't reset a timeline if it crosses that red line, if it crosses a threshold. So basically what that means is, if that timeline, branch timeline, goes on long enough, they can't reset it. It's too far gone. They just can't do it. And you can still see that Loki's just not caring about the TVA really. He's like, yeah, I've learned, because he's basically been told to go and train for the TVA, find out how he should be in the TVA, what the TVA is all about, and he's just like, yeah, sure, okay, because he doesn't really care. He's interested, but he does not care, and he certainly does not agree with the TVA, as we've seen throughout this episode and the last episode too. He doesn't agree with their stance on everything, that they have complete power, and the fact that, again, we found out the temporal aura is how they track which temporal aura is like a DNA, but they don't have to go to the point of actual being able to need to like touch and take the blood. They can just see their temporal aura, so it's basically like a cosmic DNA test. You can also see Loki is very still full of himself and egotistical, as he's calling the other variant lesser, and it's just, he's not completely different from the Avengers movies. He's still that kind of same egotistical person. He's getting broke down slowly, but as you can see, he's quite resilient mentally. He does have his flaws, pardon me, and he's still thinking he's king to himself. And we see constantly that he's being put in his place by whoever. He's basically the lowest of the low in the TVA, and he's never felt that before. Even in Asgard, he was one of the princes. He was royalty. He's never been in that position before. And what really I like about this episode is we get the real feeling of like a buddy cop thing with Mobius and Loki, and it's almost like, if you've ever seen Lethal Weapon, those movies, it's kind of like these two people do not really want to work together. They don't really agree. You see them constantly at odds, and for me, it's great. It is really great. It's really exciting and entertaining. And you can see Mobius and Loki kind of playing a chess game of sorts, trying to outwit each other, outdo each other. Especially when Loki is trying to trick Mobius and the TVA when they're chasing the variant to like a circus kind of tent. And he's just saying, right, I've found out this. And Mobius just turns out, you're stalling for time, stop playing tricks. So Loki, again, is still up to his own same tricks. He's only out for himself so far. But Mobius is like, no. And we finally see some detective kind of work, just like, again, buddy cop. Loki trying to teach the TVA and Mobius more so about Loki's abilities. He sees his own variants at times. We see the hologram kind of device that he sees different variants of himself, and he's obviously startled a little bit, and we see him go through being put in his place constantly. And then we find out Loki finds out that the variant is hiding in apocalypses because when the apocalypse happens, everyone's been destroyed anyway, so nothing they do in the apocalypse matters. So that's what Loki, Prime Loki as he's called, finds out where this variant, this lesser variant as he says, to be, and they go into apocalypse into the future. I think it's 2050, if I remember correctly, and they basically found out that the variant, as we've seen, was taking the time bombs, the erasers, as I'll call them, just for simple terms, and we find that they're all stacked up. There's like a little face-off with Loki Prime and Variant Loki, with Variant Loki not really showing themselves, and we just get constantly this like build up and build up. Both of them are like wondering which one's better. They're worried about if the other one's better, and they both feel egotistical at some point, and they just go, no, I'm better. And we basically see Prime Loki is saying, I want you to be my lieutenant when I overthrow the TVA. I feel that Loki was always thinking like this. He was never thinking of, I'll help the TVA. He was always wanting to take over. He's wanting to be top. He doesn't agree with, he doesn't like being at the bottom. He's not ready to settle for that. That's not the character right now of Loki. He would never settle for that. And we even seen earlier in the episode that Mobius even knows this. He's constantly outwitting them. So I feel there's something more to Mobius as well. Is Mobius like a predecessor to Kang in some sort? Is he like a variant like of someone else as well? Because he's very quite rebellious as well, mischievous in his ways as well. And we even see, I'm talking to the judge who is Ravonna, and Ravonna in the comics is actually Kang's wife at some points. And we do see Ravonna and Mobius basically kind of exchanging conversation. You can see they're quite close. They've got like a certain type of relationship. And you can see that there's a mischievousness to Mobius when trying to get what he wants. And finally, the build-up with the time bombs, they're stacked all around. After the face-off between the variants, there's a stack-up of the time bombs, and the variant says and reveals themselves to be woman Loki and Prime Loki, as we know him from our universe in the MCU, is basically trying to recruit them, saying, you can join me. You can join me and become my lieutenant. And the variant basically says, no. I've had 10 seconds to consider this. No. Then basically Prime Loki gets outsmarted again. The bombs go through like the time door, and they just start dropping into different places. And we see the sacred timeline becoming like a tree branch. There's branches everywhere, and they're very, very close. They're going to go across the red line, I think. You see the TVA basically hitting panic stations, and they just go, it's just all branching out. Then you see Prime Loki shout out before the variant, Lady Loki, we'll say, goes through a time door of her own, and he shouts, what are you wanting? What are you wanting from me? Why do you want me? What do you want me for? Then Lady Loki just says, this isn't about you. So I feel it's not actually going to really be about Loki. I feel like, again, he's thinking all about himself, but it's actually, he's just got his role to play. A very big role, but it's not really all about him. Or even these variants. It does feel like it is building up to Kang or possibly Lady Loki working for someone else. Like the parallel of Prime Loki was actually working for Thanos. So is this Lady Loki working for someone else? like instead, like a different version of Thanos, not Thanos, but like a Kang or something. That's quite interesting, and we find out that the variant took a hostage from the first scene, and they've told them where to find the timekeepers, which is a very big thing as well. And this is only the second episode in. This is very big things. This is, the MCU is going to go crazy now. There's loads of branches coming now. We're having Kang come up in Ant-Man 3 Quantum Mania. Kang could show up in here. We could get a hint to him like we did in Avengers with Thanos. It was slowly teased out. But I think it'll be faster paced now. This is really, really big ramifications, what the Lady Loki has done. Just dropped all these time bombs just everywhere. And it's just going to go crazy from now on. Timekeepers have been very, very involved in this case as well. And it seems like they're kind of fed up from what we hear from Ravonna. Basically saying, how do you think? Because Mobius asks Ravonna how the timekeepers are, and she says, how do you think they are? And they're constantly in this, like, they're scared. I think the TVA, the timekeepers are scared of the variant Loki and Prime Loki, and who the variant Loki might be working for. As we heard right at the start, they were in a multiversal war, and they were basically the survivors or whatever. They made a sacred timeline, so they're very wanting to protect that. And I'm sure timekeepers in the comics were very selfish in a way because they wanted to protect their self first and foremost. I feel like that's the same route of this time, because I think they're scared to lose their power, to lose themselves, to be dethroned. I don't think it's very much that they care about the timeline, they just care about themselves and their own power, I feel. And we found out that Nexus events, they can't just, like with the time variant, they can't just go back in the past and stop the time variant when they showed up, because Nexus events, which is basically the branching of a timeline, destabilizes the time flow, so they can't just go back and do that. They've got to basically follow that branch. They can't just go back. That's probably just plot armor, if I'm honest, just to be able to tell that story. And this is really exciting. I really enjoyed this episode, even more so about the first episode. I feel this show has been, even in 2 episodes, it's been way better than the other 2 shows, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is really the next phase starting off. I feel like this is going to go into Secret Wars, and it's going to be crazy. I can't wait for the next episode. I'll be doing a Bad Batch review on Friday as well, earlier than the Sunday one I usually do. Anyway, thanks for joining me. If you've lasted this long, please like and subscribe. It really greatly helps myself and my channel. Thanks again. It's been Leo's Fire.